without knowing. Just throw the peace sign, tell them good vibes only, yeah. They were hating, but we didn't even.
How you guys doing today? My name is Jessica Johnson from Western Michigan, and I thank you for coming by and checking out my video. We're going to be talking about the sixth dimension, which is the dimension where we talk about light and darkness and what that truly means, as well as we're going to be talking about the truth behind enlightenment. It's not exactly what you think it is, and we're going to discuss that. So if you have any type of take on what I discuss, be sure to leave it on the comments. I'm more than interested to find out what your perspective is when it comes to the sixth dimension. And this is all about learning from one another and finding out each other's perspective. This is how we evolve, is that we evolve from one another. And that's what it's all about. So the sixth dimension is about polarity, light and darkness, and the true meaning of enlightenment. So when you think of dimensions or the different levels of evolution or the consciousness, what would you imagine it all to be? Are they separate levels, or do they merge with one another like our chakras and our energetic systems of our body? Or is it a type of knowledge that's something that's beyond anything that you can understand right now? I mean, I totally get it. It's something that may be easy for me to understand and something that you may want to understand and often get frustrated because you can't absolutely grasp the concept. I get it. It's okay. That is why I try to break it all down as much as I can, because many years ago, I had sat where you were sitting, and it wasn't until my experiences and awakenings that I wound up grasping the understanding in knowing what I'm sharing with you. Understand this, that all dimensions that I have shared with you, from the first dimension to now, which is the sixth dimension, which I will be discussing in our consciousness and our evolutionary cycle, in which are levels of oneness of God, which is the universe itself. Everything is consciousness. And as the universe has gotten to know itself, so we are all through these different levels, and as we are sparks of God, what third dimensional humans would refer to as God. God is not out there. He's not waving his hand and creating this or that in our reality. God, as you refer to it, is within each of us. We create our own realities, whether that is good or bad. The fifth dimension is the consciousness of oneness with the sparks of God within our very own divine eternal soul. It's where the sixth dimension is where our consciousness of oneness is with the sparks of God and with all souls in all of life that have ever created by consciousness. All that is everywhere. The sixth dimensional consciousness is oneness with divinity within all souls in all of life that ever created throughout the cosmos, and is the oneness with every divine conscious created aspect within the conscious cosmic hologram. It's a lot to say, right? So I would assume that some of you are thinking, is this even real? Well, if any of you ever watched the movie The Matrix, it showed us how real this is behind the veil. We are the actors, the directors, the producers of our own play, acting out our own experiences and setting up the scenes in our own reality. Our soul grows and it gets to know itself through these lessons we create for ourselves. It's like going to school after a while, and when we have played every aspect of that grade level, we eventually graduate to the next grade. Each one having a theme and something that we all have to learn, and each time getting to know who we are, because we had all forgotten, just so we can remember again. So as far as the sixth dimension goes, the theme in many things, but one thing is known for sure, it is the miracle space. It's the space where the peace passes through the sixth dimension. The sixth dimension is a dimensional consciousness that can be felt and experienced. It is the conscious state where any can seek, find and know absolute illuminated truth of anything upon which they wish to focus their attention. It is the space where divine unconditional love for all divine souls and all of life ever created is a part of the natural ambience. You see, the sixth dimension resonates beyond frequency of karma. There's an alternate embodied form of the sixth dimension located in the electrical fields of our body. It's called the sixth dimensional light interface within the body's energy field. It's like a spiritual internet of what others may refer to as grace. This light grid that is bubbled absolutely around us is a system that conducts interconnected cellular consciousness via electricity in our body. You can feel the tingling sensation whenever you raise your vibration during meditation. Yet in this system, there is a direct interface among light, the cells in your body, the electrical fields, and in your biochemistry. These light grids wind up representing the beginning of what we call the light body, an evolutionary aspect of the human energy internet. This is also the same spiritual internet simultaneously connects to the light grids within the planet. Therefore, we wind up embodying the planet within, the vibrational pattern for the original dream of the planet. You see, it is nice to know that Aborigines, natives from Australia, had descended their original dream into their own land and held it into place throughout their very existence, along with thriving of their own culture. So, what exactly is the original dream of this planet? The original dream was that this planet would be inhabited by diverse cultures living separate lives in separate religions and separate regions, yet for all to be connected by the sixth dimensional light grids simultaneously anchored into this planet and within each person's body. Some have witnessed that the light beings visited them. Have they visited you? I know they have me. Just remember that the sixth dimension contains light beings, or rather beings with light that forms that embody a minimal density of matter that's infused with a great deal of light. In the sixth dimension, that we would see a plane of existence of possible worlds where we could compare and position all the possible universes that start with the same initial conditions as like the Big Bang. In theory, if you could master the fifth and the sixth dimension, you could easily travel back in time or go to different futures. In the sixth dimension, it is like a godlike dimension. It's beyond imagination and beyond time itself. This is a realm where the multiverse was designed and set into motion. Think of the sixth dimension as a multiverse control room. The dimension is a realm of geometry and is basically the language of light and the light from which all things manifest. Sacred geometry, such as what I have behind me, is a study of form and structure. Understand that all material things in the third dimension have an energetic template, and according to traditional occult principle, in order for anything to exist in the material world, it must first exist into the astral plane. It's there where patterns, its basic components, must be fashioned from geometry of light in the sixth dimension. The sixth dimension is mental in nature. It's based on ideas of information. Thoughts first take form in the sixth dimension before they can manifest in the astral plane. Ideas wind up taking shape through the sacred geometry. All shapes are said to be based on combinations of platonic solids. 5 shapes, each resonating with a different element. The platonic solids are merely just expressions of elemental energy on a higher plane. That discovery that I had just talked about was done by Plato himself. The human race, our morphic fields, is much like our radical oversoul, connecting us genetically, culturally, and spiritually. It is believed that once a critical mass of people reaches a level of ascension, then the rest of the species can automatically ascend in what is called the global ascension. This, in what I'm talking about, and what I'm here to explain, what is happening actually now. When the six-dimensional portals open, they will raise the vibrational frequency on this planet, which lately portal doors have been opening and closing left and right. And when this happens, the energy winds up intensifying in what is perceived as chaos on this planet. And as many who are connected know, that the higher the frequency, the more harmonious and peaceful the energy is. Yet, when lower vibrational individuals encounter light frequencies, then there's a turmoil and imbalance for a while as the energies wind up finding that balance. So it is now that the increasing turmoil is an indication of the raising of frequency of this earth. And with turbulence that occurs as each are interconnected dimensions of light comes into balance with the others. The energy of the higher dimensions work their way downward. It's not upward, it's downward, so that when the sixth dimension are open on Earth, this will begin to manifest until it is anchored into the fifth dimension, and the illusion of the third dimension with its duality consciousness and its conflict will absolutely disappear from the timeline. So as we expect that the chaos and the turbulence will wind up intensifying, but at the same time, you will begin to see the magic arising in your own life. You will see and feel the earth once again, and you will also begin to perceive the changes in your light body, in your physical body, as you wind up aligning within the sixth dimensional frequency and the light. You will, if not already, experiencing the intense light code activations with solar energies. It's the solar energy's role to activate your evolution and development. This is why I've told many of my friends, and now I'm telling you, that the sun is key. When you meditate in the sun, you are tapping into the energy directly. And I'm sure that many of you wind up understanding the importance of solar energy and solar flares that are transmitting light codes to the earth and to you. Have you ever wondered why certain people had been working hard to cover the sun? Perhaps it's because those certain people also understand how the sun is key. With the accelerated transitions and changes on the earth, have also had parallel accelerated changes and transition in our own bodies. Many have felt the tensions and the anxieties as your light body and your physical body went into another recalibration to higher frequencies of light. And many of you have found it difficult to cope with the perceived density of life around you, going through one dark night journey after another, just to release the old and to recalibrate the new. The drama, the manipulation of the old emotional and mental, parts of your life, or aspects of your life, you may have also yearned or longed for a real heart-centered relationship, a real family, a community to be a part of. The best analogy that I have for you is this. As a butterfly emerges, you are reborn to a higher level of consciousness, and you are entering another level of reality that is a natural progression, or rather an evolution, of the process of your light body activation of consciousness. So how is contrast important in our lives? How is negative and positive a good thing? We have built our realities as cultural beings in this planet towards the path of light. And the path, it seems that we have to go away from darkness. But at the beginning of this creation, the light and the darkness are basically merely the same thing. They were born like two faces of just one reality. In order to push that reality towards that creation, so light and darkness is not different things. They're not even different paths. They're There are just two ways that create negative and positive that wind up generates the energy necessary to create everything that we even know. So we need light and darkness all the time. And at the moment that we had seen the light and darkness as we know it today, it wasn't until the sixth dimension, where everything begins in the first dimension, that reality started to split in two. Then in the second dimension, we would see the negative and the positive. After that, we wind up seeing the third dimension, which winds up helping us to figure out what we are going to experience with that positive and negative. Then the fourth dimension gives us the context of time, so we can experience and focus every timeline and spaceline. Then the fifth dimension, we wind up creating the two paths in which reality must be taken to understand the creation of everything. So the sixth dimension was born from the third dimension, and the third dimension was born from the sixth dimension. The dimensions are not something linear. Dimensions are something that has expanded in the universe, where each one of them are breathing from each other and created from each other, interacting between each of them. Dimensions is all just a way for us to understand it. With the sixth dimension, it was the one that created every pattern that we know as material things. It was different because we see matter. Matter is the structure that you cannot change. It changes itself. It's conditioned by space. It's conditioned by time in the fourth dimension. In the sixth dimension, you're not conditioned by time nor space. So the sixth dimension is a perspective that the universe where you can create your own realities. You can will every reality you can possibly imagine. The sixth dimension is where the architects of the universe exist. The alchemists, who are the ones who know how to transform matter, that knows how to reveal universes. They are the ones who know how to free from time and space and to use it as tools. And like other dimensions, there is an even balance between light ones and dark ones. The dark ones are the architects. It's because they are the ones that take the light, the energies, and mix them and create shapes and as well as structures. It's done this way so spirits can experience, so they can feel, so they can touch. That's why the sixth dimension, that we have builders of the universe, the builders of reality. The reason we call the architects the darkness is because they took the energies of light and started splitting it, and many times over into many different forms, into many different shapes, like a fractal of light that makes it so different that it creates confusion and it creates distortion. Confusion is no more than a distortion of light, yet, believe me or not, distortion does have a purpose. So I guess you would wonder, why do we need distortion in the universe? Why do we even need distortion in our lives? It's because if you have light, you have a goal to know what you're capable of with your light, and you'll need the darkness to see that light. Otherwise, you won't be able to see anything. If everything is so light and luminous, you cannot even figure out how to be bright yourself. So what darkness does is that it creates matters like structures, that it helps you find your own light with the mirrors and the reflections of the universe. So in the first time, it wasn't something opposite. It was something complementary. Light and darkness was where light entities has a purpose. And it created the path towards recognizing yourself through awareness. The dark ones who took that information had started creating the distortion so that the entities would have a path to recognize itself. The dark ones were the first ones who created matters, they created realities, and even in our dreams, every entity that was certain about itself had to go through this dream that would confuse the entity. And well, we all know what dreams do to us. with all its symbology, we try to interpret their meanings and messages. It's so that the entity could be lost and forget. And believe it or not, there is a purpose of being confused, and there is a purpose of being lost. Being lost is when we can find ourselves, and to forget is to remember. If you choose to understand anything about this piece of wisdom, understand this. To be able to forget and the purpose of it all. This is to be able to find ourselves through the path and to find ourselves altogether. We must remember that the universe doesn't exactly have a goal. It doesn't have a goal of illumination. It doesn't even have it doesn't even look for enlightenment or even peace for that matter. The universe is trying to find itself in a different perspective. It's trying to understand, to learn about itself. And this is where you come in, because we are all sparks of the universe. So while the universe is expanding itself, if we have polarity in the purpose, if we can understand everything, there is no purpose in moving, right? There is no purpose on finding and seeing what we're capable of. The darkness is the one that says, fine, if you think this is so easy, we just have to complicate it just a little bit so you can truly understand. They created these structures of reality in the sixth dimension. The architects are the people who build on a scenario in a play. They create all this stuff around you to make it look weird and beautiful and even at times horrible. Whatever we need to awaken our own potential, you have chosen these patterns. The matrix of everything, even your reality, and what you would call the personality. Your personality are the tools your soul needs to play a role in your own theater. That's right, you have your own theater, which is life. You become your own character in this play. But everything you see in this scenario, everything that you see in this theater would have been built by what? It was built by darkness. The darkness creates the surroundings. And you have the tools to find yourself in the mirror of everyone and everything that is around you. So in the beginning, it's darkness that helps you find yourself. If you think about it, trying to find yourself and having questions about who you are, it's not because something beautiful had happened in it. Maybe it's through illness, a great loss, a separation, conflict, or even perhaps war. Those are usually the things that awaken people. And due to the very dark realities in this planet, if you cannot see the truth in the realities, you will need something or someone to push you to press that reality you're living in, so the real potential that you have within comes out. We can relate to winter with darkness, right? Just think about it for a moment. If we can take emotions that we feel during the winter, like the moment where everything is always dark and gloomy and low in energy, it's winter that helps the plants to keep the energies to start its growth in the spring. It's because of that moment of energy that you're working with while the winter is in effect. So that is why we need that experience and density to express the potential that we have within us. This is why in the sixth dimension, it's created all the time. Situations in which the light entities can express ourselves in many situations. I mean, think about this for a moment. If we all had the exact same realities and situations all the time, we would not learn anything. We need conflicts. We need problems. We need things to solve emotionally, mentally, and physically. All we can understand, so we can truly understand what we're capable of. That is why it is profoundly important to understand between light and darkness. The light is the path to understand, not the path to transcendence. Enlightenment is just a way that you can feel reality, but it's not a goal or purpose. It's a place where people it's not a place where people can go when they do bad things. You see, darkness is no more than a tool that we have to create the center so we can experience new realities of light. Planets like Earth, where we have only one sun, where we have 12 hours of day and 12 hours of night, and beings were prepared biologically to follow the light and to escape the darkness. We now, as cultural beings, talk about spirituality as a way of light, where there are angels and archangels and all kinds of entities of light, right? It's where many have told others to seek the light and go where God is, or what other place that one believes in. So we're heading to the light because we say that darkness is bad, right? It may surprise you that this is not something spiritual. This is actually something biological. This is not something that some entity from another dimension had told us to follow the light. It begins with the first biological cell, the first bacteria of this planet that had told us to follow the light because we needed to feed ourselves. The only way that we could feed ourselves was with light, and the light from the sun. Going from the very bottom of the oceans where the darkness is, we had to go up to see the light and to have to eat the light by photosynthesis. So the process of photosynthesis, I can say that right, is actually enlightenment. The first biological cell did this transformation of itself through the light of the sun. So when we transform ourselves through the light of the sun, we recognize that the light was the path that transformed ourselves, that gives us food. So the main food as spiritual beings is to follow the light. Yet the light is nothing else but the sun. This is another reason why I told many that the sun is key to transformation, biologically as well as spiritually, because why? It feeds us. Yet, understand this one thing. There is no light but the inner light within us and the outer light of other dimensions. So we are determined biologically to follow the light. You're just following the pattern of the cell that was 1 billion years ago that had said to you that it's not real. It's just a way that we don't get lost in this planet. Not all planets or solar systems just have one sun, where days and nights are 12 hours. Some planets, they have 2 or 3 stars, where the nights are only but 2 hours. Entities that dwell there, they have no separations between light and darkness, and many of those planets have no idea in what evil even is. It's because these cells are not built through light and darkness. So this is why that we must understand the concept of duality as good and bad things. It's something that happens in our body biologically. It's not something that happens in another dimension. When you go to other dimensions, that the demons and angels are actually working together. In the third dimension, we have been conditioned through religions that the angels and demons are always at war. Why would they be working together? You may even be in disbelief. The angels are trying to tell us that this is the path that would be good for us to understand who we are. Yet, we become so focused in the third dimension that the angels are like, they're not listening to us. I tried to be soft. I tried to encourage them. I even tried to whisper in their ears, and still, they're not listening. Yet, no matter what, they have become so focused on something else. So the angel had to go to the demon and said to him, look, I don't know what else to do. You know how to handle this situation. I need them to understand their path. Then the demon thought for a minute. He says, okay, I'll put a truck in front of him. So he'll wind up having a crash, and he'll wind up having a crisis of sorts, like an accident to get him to wake up. He'll survive, but his life will totally change, and he'll see the path. You see, sometimes we need to be guided another way in our life, and there's no other way to get us there because we just don't listen. You see, the structures of reality, tries to show us in a difficult and material way how we have to evolve in this planet. This is why we need darkness, because it is showing us the ways in which we can evolve. Yet, as humans, we at times lose that consciousness and we forget who we even are. In the sixth dimension, they also have that there are a lot of people working on this level of reality, as well as the distortion of reality. They also get distorted themselves, and then they forget who they are. What they forget is the purpose of distortion. That is to teach others how to live. So they took this distortion as a goal. That's why we recognize the darkness as something evil or something bad. I would estimate that the actual evil dark entities are only about 10% of all entities working in the darkness. The rest are working alongside with the light. There are many people in other dimensions from the darkness who are working towards enlightenment. And when we reach enlightenment, we recognize that there was no light, that it was indeed something biological, something built from the architects of reality. In the past, we used to call God the great architect of reality. We called him that because he knew the patterns and numbers and the geometry in which the base that creates everything. Yet this entity was actually light and dark at the same time. He wasn't either or. So one of the things that we in the third dimension have to understand is that the only way that we have to balance between light and dark is to be gray, to become gray entities. Now, wait a minute. I'm not talking about the gray celestial beings with the big black almond eyes. This is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the mix of the light and dark. We are creators. The only one you can create the patterns in the darkness and the matrix of light. If you have both of them together, you will understand that creation of the universe, that it's all just alchemy. When you honor them and you realize that they are a part of you, you'll be free from that distortion. You'll start to feel free and to make them free from their role to create a lot of ideas and scenarios for you. You start to live in the flow because you honor the light and dark at the same time. So the best way to understand light and darkness within each of us is to understand that the sixth dimension is the vehicle called the Merkaba, which creates realities. The sacred geometric shape that is behind me, which is also known as the Metatron cube. The Merkaba is a system of the sixth dimension that helps souls to split into many other entities that we call the vehicles of light. Yet, the vehicle of light was built by what? It was built by darkness. So it's not just light, it has both. That's why the vehicle of light has both negative and positive, because it splits the body into two. The ones that root themselves into the ground, to the darkness, are the ones that go up into the light, as it's the only way that you can create a new reality and be aware of who you are, is by going to the center. Not going up and not going below, but to the core of everything, in the middle, in the center. That is why the only way that you can transcend light and darkness is the biological concept that we have, is that you have to honor your roots and honor your branches along with your leaves. It's the only way that you can go to the core, the center in your own reality. Evolving in this planet made us believe that there are always a bad way or a good way to do things. The world is spinning all the time. Some places are night, but it always changes. It's not always night in the same place, just like it's not day in the same place. So what teaches us is that everything changes. Sometimes we are the evil ones and sometimes we're the good ones. it's not something where you're born evil or you're born with good. It was something that was used by religion to split people and to create politics, to create division. It's not something that we used to have to order society in order for society to survive. In the sixth dimension, you will see that demons and angels are working together. In this third dimension, we're born together. We are those demons and angels that are looking for neutrality. The third dimension is the experience. So the experimental part of the universe, we demons and angels are working as one within. The demons and angels are not fighting like we do on this planet. We split our work as they are enemies, but the sixth dimension, where they were created, they are not enemies. They are partners in the path of light and in the path of darkness. So in the neutral part of the universe, we don't see the duality. We don't see this fight within the darkness nor the light. This is why I say that it's totally biological. This is why I'm saying in order to escape or transcend this reality of dark and light is that you have to first recognize that you're both of them. Every human is built by both of them. That none of them are our goal. That you don't have to go to the darkness, but you also don't have to go by the light. They are just tools for us to understand who we are in the middle. They are just two ways to understand the paths of creation, but they are not the purpose nor the goals. They are just tools. This is why when you realize that you'll see that all realities and all creation with forgiveness and understanding is to realize that it was you that created everything, that you are the darkness or the light outside of you, that you are both of them. I hope that through this discussion that you have a deeper understanding of light and darkness and what it truly means. Many have a hard time understanding that both work together and that both are within us. And that, my friends, is the wisdom of the sixth dimension. I appreciate every one of you for coming on to and checking out this video. If you want to hear more educational videos and to learn about the different ways and how the universe works and everything in between, be sure to subscribe down below.